Is fine to dislike capitalism without being a communist? Totally fine to dislike capitalism without being a communist. There are many alternatives. Disliking capitalism doesn't make you a communist, though it is the general consensus that it does because the Cold War and stuff. In my personal opinion, it is even perfectly normal. Capitalism has many flaws, especially the extremely dogmatic version the US is using. Communism also has many flaws, especially if used by nations that are not a real democracy with a state of law. The truth of reality is that we cannot stay stagnant with the development of our political and economic systems. We need to always strive for new and better development, and acknowledging that capitalism is the best we have so far should not be mistaken for a love of the system or a discouragement of discussion on how to improve. It is fine to dislike literally anything. No one can tell you what you can or cannot think. You can definitely be both anti-capitalist and anti-communist, but the way you're describing both makes me think you're not formally educated on economic theory. Getting some education on that will help you think through your own ideas on the subject, and form an opinion that's informed at least by traditional political theory. If you want to explore this more, check out some public university political science and economics courses. Or if you can handle it, read Adam Smith's Wealth of Nations and Marx and Engels' Communist Manifesto. I personally landed as a democratic socialist. I believe in a free, fair, and competitive market in the Smithsonian sense. Free cost of entry and exit to the market for consumers and producers. Information symmetry: consumer and producer know the same amount about the product service, and a large number of consumers and producers, so that the market remains competitive. These three conditions are almost impossible to fully meet and have never existed in real life. It's just logistically impractical. So government regulation and intervention are needed to help the market more closely align to these ideals. You carry that through enough logical steps, and a strong welfare and regulatory state becomes a necessity for a healthy market economy. It's not a dichotomy. For sure you can dislike capitalism without being a communist. I don't mind free market capitalism, but I also like to sponsor welfare and stuff while cutting back corporate subsidies. Certainly, there are a lot of different versions of capitalism, and you can dislike a lot about our current system propose alternatives without being a communist. Yes, anti-capitalism is a broad spectrum that communism is just one version of. Since you have become aware of what capitalism does to us, what I recommend is for you to re-examine the ideas behind socialism and communism. You will be surprised at how much you might have missed in those ideas. Of course, while I support the basics of capitalism, it's also resulted in greed running unchecked and causing increasing economic divides. It's harder than ever for someone born into poverty or even the lower middle class to be able to become wealthy, contrary to what many people in the upper tiers insist. It's not all down to hard work, it's mostly about who you know and how much you start out with. Meanwhile, it's almost impossible for a person born into wealth to actually become poor, even if they never work a day in their life. You may also consider if you'd like capitalism more if it was regulated. Maybe some regulations around preventing foreign investors from owning single-family homes or from corporations lobbying government officials. The notion that if you are not a capitalist you are a communist is bullshit. I think it may even really be MAGA-type thinking. The state of capitalism today is really unpleasant. The probable best approach to government and business management engagement is a pragmatic and socially responsible centrism. Every country needs government agencies to deal with education, law enforcement, disaster response, etc. Capitalism hates big government, but it is needed. Communism, on the other hand, has never had a near-perfect implementation, which might suggest such a thing is impossible. Sure, that's where most people who eventually end up as communists start out. Takes a while to deprogram yourself from the decades of anti-communist propaganda our culture has been inundated with. All capitalism means is private ownership of the means of production. It has nothing to do with politics. In fact, most of the time when corporations and billionaires get involved in politics, what they want is for the government to intervene in the market in a way that benefits them, personally. This is, of course, antithetical to an actually free market. While that's the technical definition of capitalism, I like Michio Kaku's definition even better, as it cuts straight to the heart of the matter in a way everyone can intuitively understand. Private property prices set by supply and demand. If you're in favor of those two things, then you're a fan of capitalism, and chances are good that whatever else you like or dislike on top of that is politics, not economics. You have socialists and anarchists with you. No, you have to have firm black and white views on everything. You can critique something without disavowing it entirely, yes. In theory, communism works. In theory, Homer Simpson. Every system is imperfect because humans are far from perfect. Capitalism rewards greed while communism diminishes the incentive. The market needs competition. Most of humankind's largest strides in innovation were fed by the competition capitalism sustains. There is a healthy middle ground between the two concepts though. At the end of the day, we should take care of our fellow man.